Hi, this is Laylee with In Vivo Leadership Strategies, and this is Integrity Over Scale podcast. Welcome to Integrity Over Scale podcast. I am your host, Laylee. This is an interview with Bernal. He is amazing. He lives in Spain. And so why I am recording this after editing is because we had some issues with the first part of the recording. So I want to give a background of Bernal and who he is because it did not come into through the recording. So Bernal has experience in the military. He served as an Army officer where he focused on leading teams. So he talks a lot about accountability and how being part of that has really helped shape who he is in his company as a CEO. He also has finance and corporate background. In fact, that's where he and I met. And he also talks about Silicon Valley. So he was part of a Silicon Valley professional circle. And he shares that he was surrounded by engineers, which completely makes sense. I lived in San Francisco. And so you are always either part of a circle of startup leaders or engineers. And he talks about food and storytelling. So he had a long-standing passion for food and what led him to his company that he talks about called Quicine. So he talks about his grandmother and how he was influenced by his grandmother and how she cooked. And he also had talked about cooking live on Facebook and sharing the cultural stories behind dishes from his home. He later moved to Barcelona, which is where the interview took place with him. And the master's is AI for Business, where he has started developing the idea that has become now what is Quicine today. I hope you enjoy this podcast. He is wonderful. The description also has information about how you can learn more about Quicine and get a hold of Bernal. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Integrity Over Scale podcast. I'm your host, Laylee, and I am so lucky and so privileged to have Bernie with us today. Bernie, thank you so much for hopping on and coming on the podcast.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me today. I love to... Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. You're doing good. Keep going.
I'm happy that you reached out and we had a chance to connect so we can share our stories.
Bernie, it's completely my pleasure. And so I always ask my guests to tell us a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Bernie. I am originally from the Virgin Islands. I was born and raised in a little island called St. Croix.
Let's talk about Quicine because not only am I fascinated by that, but it's also such a good concept, simple concept that you brought into an application. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Quicine is a home pantry management system. Like for all intents and purposes, that is what it is. But for me, what Quicine is something I feel like I've been training for my entire life. When you look at food waste reduction, you look at like maximizing what you can eat in whatever you have left or whatever you have. That is a lot of us as culture. Our culture is that because if you look at some of the best foods that we have in my country, for example, we have a dish called callaloo. It's a national dish for St. Croix. That dish is basically scraps that was all thrown together and made into something that now everyone loves it. And I took it even a step further with a dish that people know and love.
I love the concept that I was able to download the app, and I love it because it takes the thinking out for you. For someone like me who dreads cooking, it's nice to know something can just feed me the information and I can just go and grab what I need from my fridge and not think about, oh, I need to go to the grocery store. I need to do this. So Bernie, the question that I've been dying to ask you is what inspired you to create this company?
Yeah. So the inspiration behind this was actually tied to my move to Barcelona. So when I was actually getting ready to leave New York Life, I had all intentions to pursue cooking. And it's actually, I have to give credit to my managing partner. He mentioned a comment to me. I used to cook live on Facebook. I used to just be for fun. And I would just be rambling on and making my food, cooking on Facebook. And he actually one time tuned in and he saw my personality. He saw how I was doing it, the dropping in the histories for food and everything. And he said the next day we came to work and we were having our little one-to-one conversation about work stuff. And he said, dude, I think you need to pursue this food thing because when you talk about food, your face lights up. You are a whole different person when you talk about food. And I think you'll be missing your calling if you don't pursue this. And basically, in a nutshell, it was in a moving piece. So as I was moving from San Jose to San Francisco, I found my paperwork of me seeing like my GI benefits that I could use to pay for school. And in that packing up, when I said, okay, you know what? It expires in this date. I need to use it. It was now or never. So that was actually universe lighting the fire for me. And there, I got ready now. I got visas approved. We fast forward, getting ready to leave to go to Spain. And I had all this food and I wanted to cry. I remember sitting there on the ground and I was taking out all the stuff, and there was all my friends there. We were trying to enter my apartment and they said, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, "I have all this food and we never got to eat it. I never got to cook it for you." And I said, "This should be an app for this. Why isn't there an app to just tell you what you have, how to cook it? You having this and da 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 da." And in that moment of frustration, cuisine was being formed without me even knowing that it was cuisine. And then you fast forward a little bit more, I get to Barcelona. I start my course here. I did my master's in AI for business. And my one professor, her name is Lorena. I will give her a shout out, Lorena Gonzalez. And she's one of my advisors. She was the one that says, "Have you ever thought about taking your idea and typing it into ChatGPT and see what it had you to develop your idea?" And I'm like, ChatGPT? I was like, isn't that like a scam? I didn't know it was real. You believe it or not, in 2025, I had not really used ChatGPT at all. I've heard about it, but I never really got behind it. And that night, I basically typed what my idea was into ChatGPT. We got out of class at 9 p.m. I didn't go to bed until 7 a.m. the next morning because I was so engulfed in my just thinking of my idea and trying to develop it some more. And essentially, that was how Cuisine was born. And I have to share, it wasn't called Cuisine at first because it was using ChatGPT. It was actually called CookSync. That was the ChatGPT name. However, when I onboarded my co-founder, Hector, my nickname and because we're talking about food and cuisine, he said, "Let's put the two together." And then that's how Cuisine came to be the name for the company.
You partnered with AI to create something that was nothing. And then the other piece that I love is you said something that was a problem, and then you took it upon yourself, and people that inspired you to take it upon yourself. And then you created what we see here today. And then you mentioned your partner, Hector. What is it like working with him in this creative aspect?
It's the best because literally we are aligned in our mission to connect people. So I have to share how the Hector Bernie story. Hector Bernie were just we were friends of a friend. So we were like a degree separated. We had a mutual friend. And then we just became friend by association. It's like, "Oh, hey, it's cool, blah, blah, blah." And when I left, we ended up just having before I left, we just ended up getting such a good bond. And then I was just so happy to talk about my idea because he's also a software engineer. And I'm like, oh, I finally become one of the peoples in our circle, because in my Silicon Valley circle, I had a lot of engineers around me and I was the only non-engineer person, or I would say the only non-tech person. And essentially I called Hector and I said, Hector was one of the first people to believe in me and my idea, because when I shared my story with him of what I was thinking of creating, he shared his story of what he was thinking to create. And then it was like the market for what he was trying to do was too saturated. And in this startup world, you have to do one or two things. You have to be either timed perfectly or financially backed, that if there is a lot of competition, you can swim your way to the front and be the first. However, when we got to the actual basis of what it was we were trying to build, it was connecting people. So I shared him with the CookSync. I pitched CookSync to him, and he said, "Let me think about it, and I'll let you know." So I took that as he's probably gonna do his own thing because he's trying to build. But no, couple days later, we connect again and he goes, "You know what, bro? I believe in you because this idea makes sense, but because you was even bold enough to tell me that I can do this with you, I agree." And we joined teams and we joined forces, and now we are the best team because he is very structured and very organized, and he loves to have stuff on Notion and everything documented, which for me, I am the creative one. I'm just flying ideas left and right. And I always had a staff. Being in the military, I always had a staff. Then all of my jobs I always had a staff. So I could have like some kind of admin person to say, hey, do this. Hey, do that. Write this down and remember that and track this down. But the ideas always flowed so easily and I never really had to like write. But now this time as a leader of a company, I now have to write. And Hector helps me to keep that all on track. And then it's the best thing about having a co-founder. You're not operating in a vacuum. My ideas might sound great in my head because it's like so much of them. But then I talk to Hector. He's like, no. How about we package it this way? And it's vice versa. We just bounce off of each other because it's such a good, what's the word? We complement each other in the best ways possible as far as people working together.
And
And
I
that was
know
like
the
a
app.
long, but I had to share all of that.
I'm so glad you did. And now the application has launched. Has it been 2-3 weeks now, Bernie? Can you remind me?
Actually, so today is, where's the calendar? Today is July 22nd. So it's actually been a little bit over a month. We launched on June 18th, officially in America. It was the 17th. And then I think all the stuff to update with Apple, but official launch date was June 18th. So it's been a little bit over a month and it's been great. Right now, we are trying to turn the people who have registered, all of the free users, into money because our goal that we had was, and I will give real numbers because one of my things that I started on my own platform is that I'm building out loud because I want the people to walk with me on my journey. And it's basically, I'm not even so much worried about the product. I just want people to connect to see like, why am I doing it? Because in you agreeing in you knowing what I'm doing, you will see why it's like yes, definitely we're going to sign up for Quicine. So essentially our goal is to have 1,000 paid users by the end of the year. And as of today, we actually have 500 registered users, but we do have a free version of the app. So I'm just like, okay, we're halfway there in the first month and we please get you to pay and jump over. But as we're being new guys and new kids in the block, we expect this. And just the fact that 100% of this has been organic growth. We haven't paid for any marketing. We haven't paid for ads. And the fact that my goal has already been kind of, I would say, halfway met, I feel that we are doing the right thing. And I think we'll be able to make it by the end of the year.
You mentioned that you're also showing your journey and being transparent in the way that your company is growing. What inspired you to be that open and vulnerable with the world?
I was terrified to do this because people saw me as Mr. Personality. I was always one cracking jokes. We on a very serious business call and Bernie over here doing this. They're like, who is this guy? So I've always been a kind of like an outgoing person, but I was scared because I remember whenever you start sharing, you're opening yourself for criticisms. But then I had to sit with myself and I said, listen, what you are building is something that's not going to just impact a small group of people. What we're building is actually going to have a global impact. Quicine, while I say the easiest way to explain what Quicine is, it's a home pantry management system. But when you do that, that is the catalyst of food waste reduction from the home. Most people have their focus on just B2B and try to, all of these companies, these startups, the reason why they explode so fast is because they're just selling to other businesses that have other deep pockets. So of course that's going to look like a success. But what it was is that I felt what we were doing, Hector and I, we're actually trying to do our part to make the world a better place and how we found it. Yeah, that's what made me lead to share the story so that if someone else has a idea or they want to know what happened. And then also a lot of people keep calling me, asking me, how did you do it? So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put it out there. Here is what I did. You can look at it 4 or 5 times. If you have questions, message me. But that's the basis of how I got to this position I am right now.
It takes bravery and it takes someone who has courage to do something like this. I always say our small businesses are the pillars of our community because this isn't very easy to do. It's easy to be part of a large company. And in fact, I have a follow-up question for you. What is it like moving from this finance and corporate world into your space and what you're doing and being a CEO of your company?
It's night and day. I'll give it to you even 2 more steps back. As a military person, as an officer, you're like the managers. You're leading the mission, but you're following someone else's order. And you're just trying to make it do whatever it is that you can do with the people you got and making sure as the leader, you could bring your guys home. That was the main thing, accountability and safety. That was always my mission as an Army officer. And then you translate that into finance. Our jobs, we had the fiduciary duty or responsibility to make sure we took care of people's money. And that was a big deal because money was what was going to secure, guarantee what type of future you would have. So again, it's like everything I was doing was preparing me now for this seat as the leader of Quicine. Because right now, what I have to do now is figure out, number one, privacy. Everything that we have to do now with our company, we have to make sure we are guaranteeing and we can promise our users your data is going to be secure. Your data is going to be not used for anything crazy except helping you to make a good food. And that's
Mm.
something where in real time, if you get someone coming and like, hey, I like your idea. Let me give you this money, but you need to do this and this. If this person comes and challenges anything that is against your level of integrity, that's when you have to be strong enough to have the fortitude to say, you know what, this doesn't align with the mission of my company. And you have to own it. When you say my company, to say, you say it from your chest.
Say it proud. That's right.
Yes, because now leading a company, like I made a post the other day and I said it, it's so fun being an entrepreneur and a CEO, a founder. Everybody has these titles, but what does that mean? It means nothing unless you have people to buy what is it you're selling or what your service you're providing. And what we're providing is not just as a cool app that has nice pictures and does cool things. We're doing something that once it's fully in practice across the world, we will be able to actually help greenhouse gases go down. And maybe we might have nicer summers and maybe calmer winters because just food waste itself, that that accounts for at least 30% of the greenhouse gases that we have now on the planet. Not just one country or one this or this is no. So when you ask me what is it that's the biggest difference is now I am now even more the guardian of the integrity of where I want my company to be.
And that takes me right into the next question that I have for you, which is your leadership journey. So if you were to say what your leadership journey has been in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
My leadership journey in one sentence. I want to be like Nike, just do it. Okay. I would say this. My leadership journey has been one where I think like I have to say it again. My life has been one where I've always been in somewhat either the one in charge or leading the group, and it just came naturally to me. I know they have a book. I forgot what the name of it is, talking about are you a natural born leader or you have to be trained for it. So my leadership thing was just there, just be bold enough to do it. And if you're gonna lead with integrity. Because as you lead, people will follow. And if they can see that you are moving with a purpose and you are doing something to benefit the people around you, then lead. But never ask someone to do something that you wouldn't do for yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful. You mentioned the word integrity. And of course, this podcast is called Integrity Over Scale. Right. And integrity, definition wise, we talk about it being like the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles that you refuse to compromise. And from what you're saying and you're sharing, even from going from a corporate world and for what you stand for, that level of integrity is needed. So knowing that definition, Bernie, what does integrity mean for you as a leader?
Integrity means being strong and being strong enough to say no. Knowing when to say no and knowing when to say, you know what, I don't know. That's also the next thing. Because a leader isn't all about just you being in the front, being the loudest and the one in the front, the best dressed or whatever. Being a leader is knowing your people, understanding what is it that you need to accomplish, because this is how we used to do it in the military. Whenever you had to accomplish a mission and you had to do something, you had the mission, of course, you had the people leading everything, but then you will look and say, okay, you know what? I am the lieutenant because that was the first rank you get. You were a second lieutenant. I'm the lieutenant. We call it the LT. You're like, LT, what are you going to do, LT? Come on. Or they say platoon leader, they call you a PL. What are you going to do, PL? You have to make a decision. Sometimes the best decision is going to your man and say, hey, this is what we got to accomplish. I am clueless of how we're going to do this. So let's talk this through. And you go, hey, Laylee, you're good at this. Marco, you're good at that. Can you guys get together, solve out the communications? Well, because we need to go from here to here. And it's you being able to effectively communicate what is it the mission is. And then you go to your team and say, you know what, you guys are the subject matter experts. Let's do this together. You collaborate. And then you can say, all right, this looks good. Let's go, because you can verify that all of the key milestones that you need to hit are met with the people. And then you put the people who are, again, you're smart on this, you're smart on that. When I started to build Quicine, I started myself on Flutter Flow and I started clicking and I did all this stuff. But I said, I'm not a tech expert. So we went in and we hired someone to do it for us and it got us to where we're at today. So at the end of the day, A leadership isn't just about being in front. A leadership is about being able to know your people and being strong enough to say no when no is supposed to be said. And then always the integrity part is always keeping you're keeping it like as a leader of a company. I said I want to hire people, but I don't want to ever have the chance that I need to lay people off. So that's me making sure, like, is my projections correct? Are my progression, okay, I'm going to hire 2 people. We have the money to do that without having to stress. Our runway is going to expire in 6 months. And that's basically, it's a long way again, but I'm just trying to cover all of the areas of how I see it as a leader. So that's how I would sum up integrity as a leader is being able to be honest with yourself when that you're doing good, and then being honest with yourself that if you're doing bad and you need help, turn around and ask for it.
And that, it sounds like you also have a very good moral compass that's been guiding you, Bernie. Is that fair to say?
100%.
I love that. Well, with leadership, of course, it comes challenges. So what has been the biggest challenge for you?
One of the biggest challenges I have for me is sometimes you believe in people and you believe you can see the potential, and it's like a bad relationship. It's like a bad relationship. You were like, hey, I see this person. I like you. I know what you can do. I've seen some of the good that you have done. But sometimes you have to say, you know what? I'm sorry, such and such a person, whoever, it's not working out. And then you have to have the strength to say, let's cut our relationship here in this capacity now, like this, and then move on. And it does not have to be in an ugly way. You can just say, hey, you know what? We have ran this race good, but our time together has come to an end, and let's now go transition to the next spot. So that's been sometimes the hardest part because I always want to see the best in people. And I said, I know you can do it. And I will sometimes maybe push a little bit more than I supposed to before I disengage.
Wow. I love that. I love that. And it's so challenging to call that out when it's happening live too. Well, my last question for you is that really it's first a statement, then it's a question. I always tell my guests for the most part that leadership is not for the weak. And I am so glad that it picked you because not everyone can be a leader. If you could give an advice to your younger self with everything that you know now, what would it be?
For me, I would say for my younger self, I would say to a younger Bernie, because Bernie didn't exist until as an adult. So I would say to a younger Burnell, don't be scared to speak up. Because when I was little, even though I was outspoken, I was always shy to speak out all the way. And I would say, don't be shy. If you are genuinely curious about that topic, whatever it is, go and do the research and make it happen. Because the longer you wait, someone else is going to do it. And that's the worst thing is that if you had an idea and someone else does it, you're like, I had that idea, and they look at you like, yeah, right. So now in the world of entrepreneurship, I have seen other competitors kind of popping up here in the same space or similar spaces of what we're operating as. However, I don't see that as a bad thing. Now I see that as good. You listen to your gut, you're following through with this, and now you're going to show them that why you're the leader of Quicine and how good you're going to do it better than everybody else who's in the space.
Thank you so much for joining us in a podcast. And I love your journey and I love your story and I love your app. So tell everybody where we can find you.
Yeah. So right now, if you are an Apple user, the app is live on iOS. So you can go to the Apple App Store and download Quicine. We are coming for Android, and maybe next month we'll be ready because Android has a whole long-winded process. However, we are there for it. We love and we appreciate the ability to even have something worthy to share with the world. If you want to follow me on my founder's journey, I have just started my new Instagram page, and my name on Instagram is bernieatquicine. Very simple. So you have to spell out at. So Bernie, BERNIEAT, Quicine, QUICINE, to spell that out.
That's great.
Great. You can follow us. We have our website, www.quicine.com. Our blog is there. We post daily on making sure you have any kind of like little tips and tricks for food waste reduction. And we will be coming to you in about a month, I would say, for Android. So then we'll be worldwide. Quicine is launched in America and in Spain. So we actually have 2 entities, and this is how I'm showing my dedication to actually being intentional on how we release this. If we wanted to just do it one thing and just be small, that would have been fine. But like I mentioned before, this is a global mission, and we are launching in 2 countries, the United States of America and in the EU. So Android users, which most people in the EU have Androids. So we're coming to you, EU. Just give us some time, but we'll be there.
Thank you so much again for coming on and for your time, Bernie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me and allowing me to share my story. I wish you all the best and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And for our listeners, make sure that you subscribe, follow whichever platform that you're using. We have a podcast every week where we bring individuals just like Bernie or maybe solo podcasts and we talk about leadership.